I want to welcome everybody to our fifth session of our career pathways. My name's John Cokefair. I'm going to be the moderator tonight. We're working in conjunction with District 117, Antioch and Lakes Community High Schools, along with Technology Campus. We're recording this. We've invited the branches of our military to come and talk to you and really give you an opportunity of what they have to offer as an alternative to your pathway as you move ahead as an adult. So, tonight I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. We're probably just going to go, Army and then the Air Force, just because Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and we'll just drop you right into that lump. We'll start off with David tonight. David, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give us a little bit of a background on how you got where you're at and what it is you have to offer our students.
All right, so as was being introduced, I'm Staff Sergeant David Coney. I'm actually originally from Batavia, Illinois, so grew up kind of just south from where you're all at, so western suburbs. I know go Bulldogs. Someone knows the area. So anyway, I joined the Army at the age of 26, mainly because I first wanted to do some college. I was hoping to go in an engineering degree, patent attorney, but once the college changed its curriculum on me to transfer out, I just kind of looked at it. I'm like, hey, how many times can you do that to me? Because they didn't have it all set in stone. So, I decided, what, I'm going to look at the military because, I've always had that feeling of, hey, wherever you work, let's go ahead, get you promoted and, know for a fact that your bosses are ones who work your job beforehand. And I will admit that the first time I went into the Army recruiter office, I had no idea what kind of jobs were there. I always just thought, hey, we have combat arms, and here I am growing up in a family of, computer information technologies and, management of software. So, I thought it was like, well, this is really different. But then it turned out that sitting down after taking the test, I qualified for satellite communications. So, I've spent the last 12 years doing satellite communications for the Army. Been in Germany, Texas, and in Maryland. So I've seen all aspects of it. I've done from the people that provide services out to those who are deployed, as well as being the people that could deploy, even though the particular unit I was at was actually testing the equipment that the Army wants to purchase. So, got very fortunate to see even that aspect of things. And then did you want me to proceed into, because I have a few slides that also talk about the military, or just intros right now?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and just let you roll with it, and we'll just move through it as we go. If you'd like to share some of those slides.
Oh yeah, no, awesome. Absolutely. And there's only a few. I know for us, when it comes to the training, we call it death by PowerPoint, but I know I got pictures here and yeah, just some fun, exciting things. So, all right, is everyone able to see this first slide about Army being part of the team? All right, so let me get control of that. All right, so like how I said, Staff Sergeant David Coney, and when I talked about like the different aspects being in Germany, as well as, Maryland and in Texas, this really, the three pictures there, cover everything that happen to be. And the one in that bottom right actually is the facility in Germany. So largest terminal that we actually have in the United States Army, supporting missions for all the branches. I would love to say I also supported the Air Force, but I only supported like 50%. The other 50% went to Ramstein, our next door neighbors, but we did actually work hand in hand very often. So, it's definitely a job that gets an opportunity to see everyone. So for Army, we recruit both active duty and the reserve. So just to kind of give you some of the differences between us, we look at it, active duty is your 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job. You get federal holidays, weekends off. And your Army Reserves is, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the summer, and to get the full 100% of benefits, you're working only 216 days out of 6 years. So, and that's to get all the reserve benefits as well. Part of us is you get your choice of job. So when you take the ASVAB with us, you get to come back to our office. We'll sit down and we'll actually pull up the list of available occupations. And you will pick out your occupation that will be a temporary reservation. And then we would sit down with the guidance counselor after we get you through the physical. And the job that you selected ahead of time is exactly the job that you get. And that's the one that you're entering the Army with. So I know the other branches are a bit different, but yeah, we're the ones that are going to sit there and say, hey, we have over 150 different jobs. This is what qualifies. Here's what's going on, what has bonuses, and all that fun jazz. So also kind of the big differences between the active Army and the reserves is the amount of money you can get in a bonus, mainly because you're looking at the different level of commitment, hence why the active duty Army can get a $40,000 bonus up to, and the reserves can get up to a $20,000 bonus. So, and this changes based off of the options you choose, what job you choose, because it's going to just be dependent on, what do we need to fill absolutely right now because we're short staffed. And, for one of the things that you can do is join as a buddy team. Some occupations actually say if you join with your friend at the same time for the same occupation, we're going to give you a bonus just for bringing that friend along. Then you also have the Montgomery GI Bill. So there is a slight difference between active duty and reserves. Active duty is going to pay more out, but that's also because, you're working more than just 216 days. I'm not going to change that number, 216. But yeah, for the active duty, I mean, you got to figure you're working 4 years to get 100% of the benefits. That's going to cover room and board. But, if you're on the reserve side, you're probably going to be going to college and you can still apply for FAFSA with that. But exclusive to the reserve side, you also have a GI kicker. So that's up to an additional $350 per month. And while you're in both the services, you also get tuition assistance, and all the branches are going to offer this. For us, as soon as you finish advanced individual training, so your tech school, you immediately can start college if you want to and pull this tuition assistance. So that's $250 per semester hour. It does change between $4,000 to $4,500 per fiscal year. It recently lowered to $4,000, but that's because of COVID, and everyone is now finding time to go to college and seeing that they need it to advance. So, but typically it's the full $4,500 per year when, we're back to our normal operations. But if you're joining the active duty side, you're also going to be living on, you have the option to live on base for free. This doesn't matter whether or not you are single or have a family. You can get your meals at the dining facility for free. That's more if you're still single. As soon as you have a family, you're going to actually be given an allowance specifically to pay for food for that family. And then also, the medical benefits are available to both sides as well. So with the active duty Army, I mean, we're going to cover your full medical and dental. Family members, you would only have to pay a little bit for additional dental care, but they would have the full medical coverage as well. So real example, I have my wife and my son. My son was born while I was in Maryland. Most hospitals will charge for a birth anywhere between like $50,000 to $100,000 for that birth, depending on how long you're in there. I paid nothing, and then you can look at the reserve side. Medical, $50 per month, $25 per month for your dental. That's a lot more affordable than current plans that usually are around $300 a month. And then, with the active duty, you could live across the world. And with that, I'm talking about you could be in Italy, Germany, Belgium, the United Kingdom, Guam, Japan, South Korea. We have duty stations there. Or if you happen to like to have action and go infantry or one of our combat arms, they do 3-month rotations, even into like the Philippines and down to Australia, into Germany as well. I had a unit, we could have gone out to Austria. I happened to have my movement to a new duty station just before I got to go back to to Europe, to Austria. And usually when you're on those rotations, you still have your weekends off to get to enjoy the local culture and be able to go out and see the country. Whereas reserves, sorry, I switched slides. Reserves, we're going to find a place for close to where you want to go to school and where you work. So that way it's not much of a travel time. But for our daily life, kind of just to give you an idea here of what our soldiers go through, when it comes to the barracks, you have your dining facilities within walking distance, and you have your place of work, usually within walking distance. So you're actually saving a lot of money on transportation. And you also have the dining facility. The meals change daily. So we also have like special meals for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and knowing that you can go in there for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Some places will offer a midnight chow just because they know there's going to be people that work overnight as well. No cost to you. So you can, and they even make sure that you understand like what meals are healthy and what aren't. So, but it's still your choice. You can fill up the plate as much as you want. But also more about the barracks, some people say, oh, well, I'm going to be living in the barracks. I'm going to be in this tight, cramped room. Well, actually, our barracks, it's single man rooms and it's set up like college dorms. That room that you have, kind of like in my picture, you can customize it. You can put up posters and pictures and actually I've seen people paint their barracks rooms as well. But yeah, it's kind of you keep it nice, clean, just kind of like at home. Because occasionally we do have to come check just to make sure that it's like, hey, you're not in a condition where you're going to be unhealthy and all of a sudden finding yourself sick every single day. But then, yeah, you share a kitchen area. I know in Germany, these typically were actually one large, massive room. And at the same time, you have that room all to yourself. So, it does vary base to base. And then, kind of to get into more of our active duty soldier, kind of like what you go through as a morning routine. You wake up in the day, you're going to first work out, 6:30 to 7:30 is the typical workout time. You could be at the gym. Gyms are free on base. You could be at the pool. Some people like to do water training. I know when I was in Texas, this was a typical Thursday activity that we would go into the pool. Granted, we played water polo, but I mean, these pools were actually also utilized for water safety training for the infantry. And then you also have your outdoor fitness at the unit. So, we do try to make sure that, when you're out exercising, it's enjoyable, as much as it possibly can be when you're waking up that early. And then, how I said 9 to 5, so that 7:30 to 9, is your time to eat and get cleaned up. But the 9 to 5, based on your job is going to kind of determine what your daily life is going to be like from that Monday through Friday. So if you go combat arms, you might find yourself out at the range for shooting your firearms much more often. If you're part of like the tankers, you're going to actually go out, test your equipment. And I mean, you do still have to qualify at the range, not only with your personal firearms, but with your actual equipment. So, 1st Armored Division's down in El Paso, Texas. You have both day and nighttime firing. So, that was not uncommon for us to be able to hear cannon fire in the middle of the night. But I mean, you kind of get used to it. And then you have your mechanics who are going to be sitting there maintaining equipment. And we also have fun as well. I mean, how there in the bottom left, that was one of the Halloweens that we were allowed to get all dressed up and just have fun. I mean, we didn't have any additional activities for that particular day. But I mean, you have your other fields of like satellite communications where, we're here training, ready to respond to equipment failure. You have your paralegals who either are actively engaging and working a law case for the battalion, or they're researching, keeping themselves up to date. But you have people in information technology, human resources, finances, engineering, construction. So basically, if you think about it, we probably have something that's very close to it because we have over 150 different occupations. So, if you think, hey, I want to do the band, guess what? You can actually be in the Army's band. We actually have those. And so like even when we have like the entire garrison go out for a run, the band is at the beginning and finish line. They're playing all sorts of music, trying to keep you pumped and hyped throughout the entire run, because those runs, they tend to be slow, but that's because you have absolutely everyone in them. But then, you know, when you get beyond the 9 to 5, you also have your free time, your weekends, and those allow you to do a lot on base as well as off base. On base, I mean, you have golf courses, you have bowling, movie theaters, wood shops, the boss program, which is better opportunities for single soldiers. So, you know, when you're single, knowing for a fact that you can hang out with other singles doing different activities like whitewater rafting. Over at Fort Meade in Maryland, they did painting. They took you down to Busch Gardens, Six Flags. You know, you got to go out and do quite a bit. MWR, so Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, does the same thing, and they cater also towards families. So when I was over in Germany, they would take us down to Europa Park, which is the German equivalent of Disneyland. We also went out and I forget the name of the town, but there's one that actually was up on a hill, so the train had to go around it, so you could actually go and see the original Night Watch. And they had Christmas markets all over the place. So MWR would let you pay $10 for something that should cost around $50 to go out, and then they would just give you several hours to go out and explore and have fun. And then you also have your on-base auto shop. So if you feel like you want to take care of your own car and not pay for it, you know, they might charge $10 for use of the bay. But I mean, they also have both your standard lifts as well as the automatic ones. And they just go through a little bit of safety course. And if you need a mechanic to help you, we actually have licensed mechanics there ready to help you at no additional cost. So yeah, it's actually quite a bit of things, because you have to figure for the Army, when you're on a military base, basically, we're an entire community that, so anything that's in town, we typically have it on base as well.
David, I got a couple questions for you. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've, you know, some of the stuff to cover. One of the pre-questions I got in my invitations to the military, do you have female recruiters?
Yes.
Are there
yes.
recruiters out there that are female?
Yes, actually in my particular office, we have Staff Sergeant Brain. So she is a Black female recruiter. And even for her, she went with her occupation as being ammunition specialist. So she actually, outside of recruiting, operates within the depots, making sure that, you know, all the units are receiving the right type of ammunition for their training and keeping track of the quantity. So a little bit of the supply side, but yeah, mainly making sure that about the safe operation and use of it, and as well as making sure that, you know, no one's trying to steal any ammunition as well, even though it can be of any caliber.
As a recruiter, you guys too had it. You know, you said you were in communications and she's in ammunitions. So you have regular jobs that you do for the Army on top of recruiting, if I understand that right?
Yes, that's correct. So for the recruiting, I mean, this is an assignment. So for my 3-year period in recruiting, I'm going to be doing nothing but recruiting. And unless I turn into a recruiter for the rest of my career, I will be going back into satellite communications. And I know I'm actually trying to switch over to the network information technologist of warrant officers. So actually, that's another aspect that most people don't think about the Army is if you're not really satisfied with your current job, or you know, you're in for the fun and the excitement, you now have a family and you want to change occupations, the retention counselor, who's basically the same job as a recruiter, just directly with the units, helping you stay in the Army, they will help you change jobs. Because I've had infantrymen come into satellite communications. I have had satellite communications guys that have left and are now UAV pilots, and also for mechanics, and for some that wanted to go and join an airborne unit. So they actually went to the air assault course, so that way they could get specific assignments.
So you said you're short, you're looking for people. About how many people do you recruit a year? And how long have you been recruiting? I guess.
Oh, okay. So that one is a little bit, well, I'm not going to say tricky, but I know
Oh.
it says a little bit about our own self. So yeah, when it comes to recruiting, I've only been out in the recruiting field for 1 year. So, I'm one of the lesser experienced guys within the office, but, that's a reason why we have a station commander who has had, he's been in recruiting for, this is his third assignment. So he's been in recruiting directly for 9 years. So, if there's any information that we happen to get wrong or slightly inaccurate, he's there to catch it and be able to say, hey, no, this is the truth of the matter. So for my own self, I've only put in 4 individuals personally. But, I've helped for both active duty, reserve sides, and I have a few more that are lined up. They just happen to want very specific jobs. So they're completely qualified. It's just a matter of, I need to have that particular occupation opened up. But yeah, I mean, so when I mentioned that we were short on personnel, I can tell you off of the last numbers that I looked for one particular MLS, again, it's going to be in the signal field just because we recently had people come in that wanted to kind of get into signal, and they had 3 different choices of satellite communications, multi-channel communications, and signal support specialist, which is kind of your jack of all trades within the signal field. That signal support job happens to currently have about 129 open slots for training this coming summer. Whereas you look at the satellite communications for my job in particular, and there's only 39 seats coming this summer. So yeah, just
So
various
everybody's chasing
occupations.
after your job. It's time for you to retire. They're coming after you. So
Yeah, and then the infantrymen, I mean, it's the biggest one, and at least at the start of the school year, it was at 418, and for next summer, and yeah, it's down in the 200s now.
So that leads me into life after the Army. Where do you see yourself going? Life after the Army. You've committed. I'm assuming this is your career, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But where do you see this going? And what is the career span for somebody who's a full-time Army person?
All right, yeah. So for my own self, once I got past the 4-year mark and realized I reenlisted for 8 years and continued to enjoy the Army, as soon as I reenlisted, and I'm now owing 15, hence I said, I'm at 12. I'm already past the halfway mark, so I might as well aim for going for the 20, but I want to do warrant officer. And, I use my uncle as a bit of an example where he did a 32-year career. So, I want to open up my own video game design company because I have story ideas. And I figured, it's the longer I've stayed in, it's like, okay, the opportunity to start my own studio is probably diminishing. It's not necessarily a true fact. It's just the way it appears to me. So I figured, what, if I can collect a hefty retirement pay, if I'm able to get out as a warrant 5 at 30 years with 75% of my retirement pay, then I can short sell myself and hopefully have some of these companies be willing to take a risk on me.
That's really cool. This is about career pathways, and serving your country, and then going on, to you have a dream of, the video field, and starting your own video company.
Oh yeah, no, and actually, with you mentioning it, one of the other things I do want to at least highlight. So, say you're not going for the long career, we also have a program called Soldier for Life Transition Assistance Program. You're able to start that program 18 months out from the time of your end of term, or the end of service for the Army. And what they do is they will teach you job interviewing skills. If you want to start up your own business, guess what? You now have 18 months to design your business plan, and they will review it. They have professionals that will say, hey, this looks like it would succeed. Have you thought about this? Do you know where you're going to have this source of income? So a lot of the successful entrepreneurs that start out like right away and are actually successful in the first business, instead of being successful on startup number 10, they were military because they had 18 months to get everything planned and squared away. Or, we will try to line up jobs for you. I know when I was over in Maryland, it was actually funny when Amazon was opening up their new headquarters too. They actually came onto our installation looking for information technology people. But the only requirement was, because they were willing to teach you, was to have a top secret security clearance. So they looked at it and said, hey, we don't want to invest $100,000 to do a background check on you. The Army will do that. And you do maintain your security clearance for several years. So they looked at it and said, hey, Army is going to pay $100,000 to get your security clearance for us. And, we'll teach you. And next thing you know, and they were even saying that their starting salaries were at like 175K. So, to go in and only have to worry about a clearance and nothing else, none of the certifications that they're going to help pay and teach you, that's a big trade-off.
That's awesome. Before we let, Michael speak up, can we have some contact information? If somebody's interested in the Army, what can we do?
All right. I'm glad you mentioned that. So besides having the contact information all around me, I do have it here on the slide as well. So if you wanted to join, it's actually really super easy steps. One is having that personal commitment to say, hey, I want to go through this process, because everyone's journey to join the Army is a bit different. There might be some complications along the way. You might say, hey, I take this medicine right now, but I don't actually need it. We need to take a look and say, okay, we can do waivers on something. So for some people, it'll take longer than others. But if you're committed to go through the process through with us, we're willing to work with you all day, every day. So, speak with us, we'll have you take a practice, and as well as take the ASVAB, which every service needs the ASVAB to be taken. And then, after we see that, you pick out that job and we take you back down for a physical. And it's basically like a sports physical. So I'm sure the Air Force can confirm that it's really not that difficult. You have like a duck walk and, just check your range of motion. But yeah, for this last slide, you got my contact information on there. So, you can reach out to me either via email, the cell phone. I do have that at all times, regardless if I'm at work or at home. I will just say on the weekends, I am slower to respond. But, if you send me a text message, guarantee I will get back to you. And, if you're at least someone who likes to see different quotes at different points in time, you can go to my Instagram. You can DM me on Instagram as well. I'll see it and I'll respond to you. But yeah, I'm kind of on that older side, and I like seeing the quotes, and it's amazing for some of these people that you research into how much thought goes into it. But yeah, you'll see like my little insights on that as well, versus some of the other recruiters that will just specifically only show you all the military stuff. I'm going to transition to that, but I definitely like to also show you, things that, kind of have inspired me, got me motivated to continue to work hard and just enjoy the entire experience.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I'm sure we'll have some questions once we're done.
Yeah, no.
Okay, Michael, you saw how it's done. All the hard questions were put up for David. So if we want to go through, I don't know if you need the screen share.
I do not. It came a lot more prepared than I did. Slideshows and everything. So basically, Zoom never works on my government computer, which is why I don't really use slideshows for Zoom calls. I just like to sit back and talk. And as I'm sure Sergeant Coney, I believe, I'm sure he would agree, most recruiters enjoy talking. So it's kind of the way I like to run things. So quick introduction about myself. I enlisted right out of high school. I started talking to the recruiter when I was 16. Found out I couldn't talk to the recruiter until I was 17. So then I went back at 17, started the conversation. I ended up getting my #1 job pick, which I'll kind of explain in a second, but it was security forces. I was following in my father's footsteps. He did 23 years security police before the career field transitioned to security forces. And my grandfather's footsteps, who did 33 years in the Air Force. So I was kind of following suit with that. I
Hey,
ended up
Scott,
shipping
can we
out.
go to speaker view? Can we change this to a speaker view? So we get more, Michael? Is that possible?
Yeah, John. So I've got controls for our attendees. They're on speaker view, and you can toggle your own in the top right up there with the view button.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Thanks, sorry.
Sure.
So about 2 months after I graduated high school, I ended up going to basic training down in San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Force Base. Same base my whole family went through when they went to basic. So I spent 8.5 weeks down there. Basic is now 7.5 weeks because of COVID. So I was down there, and then I went over to Security Forces Tech School, which was still on Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Spent about 4 months down there, and then went to my first duty station, which was Osan Air Base, South Korea, where I spent a year. It's kind of learning how to do the job, doing law enforcement, doing security, doing various other tasks that young airmen end up doing. But that was primarily what I did. A lot of law enforcement at that base, because they have a lot of issues in terms of alcohol abuse, things like that, from civilians and everyone else. So really got to see how DUIs are run, really got to see the medical side of it, dealing with fire, helping fire out with a lot of that type of stuff. So really enjoyed my time over there. Then I went to Moody Air Force Base in South Georgia, which is kind of a weird base. It's super small, super close-knit community. It's also a special operations base. So I got to go down there and hang out with a lot of those guys. I actually ran into a friend from high school that is a special operator in the Air Force. So I got to spend some time with him. It's also where I met my wife down in Georgia. But down there, again, I primarily did law enforcement. I deployed once over to Abu Dhabi in Dubai. So I got to spend 6 months out there. It is an Air Force deployment, I will say that. So I got to go hit the Desert Classic PGA course. Got to go play that for a while. Went to some water parks while I was over there, and just spent a lot of time out there having a good time. Put on about 20 pounds of muscle, lost it all as soon as I got back because I had nothing else to do outside of the golf. Got back to Georgia, and I actually ended up taking over I worked in the armory for a bit, and then I ended up taking over the training section. And I did a lot of the unit training manager stuff, did a lot of the actual unit training in terms of law enforcement and expeditionary skills. So prepping other guys to deploy, as well as prepping people how not to break the law when they're doing law enforcement, and various things of that nature. So I spent about 4.5 years in my career field. Then I got picked up for recruiting right at about the 6th year point. So I've been a recruiter for about 2.5 years now. Been up here in Illinois. Originally, I am from Virginia, but luckily for me, my whole family is from Chicago. So I grew up a Bears fan, Blackhawks, White Sox fan. Can't support the North Side. Got to keep going south. And I've been up to the city of Chicago a bunch when I was a kid, seeing family members. So I was semi-familiar with the area. Love the food, love the environment. My last name blends in up here. So it was pretty sweet being able to recruit up in this area. Currently, my recruiting area is from about Harvard, Illinois, down to Woodstock, over to Lake Zurich, and up to Salem, Wisconsin. So I cover a really big area. A lot of high schools fall under that, but it keeps me busy, which is kind of what I enjoy. So kind of getting into what the Army was going off of, a lot of our benefits are going to be the same across the branch. There are some differences, but when it comes to housing, medical, things like that, food, a lot of them are going to be pretty much the exact same. The difference in terms of tuition assistance, when he was talking about college, is the Air Force stayed consistently at $4,500 minus about 1 month when they fell to 4,000, then back up to 4,500. But we are maintaining 4,500 consistently, and our Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force has no plans to lower that back down, because that is one of her prerogatives, is to keep the college education at a very high rate. for active duty Air Force members. Now, the other big college benefit that the Air Force has, we are currently the only branch where every single one of our jobs comes with an associate's degree. So it's called the Community College of the Air Force. It is regionally accredited. Every single job. So like my first associates is in criminal justice, being security forces. That's just what I was given. My current job as a recruiter, it's in human resource management. My office partner, his is in like some type of electrical science specialist. I don't know. His job is a little bit more high tech than mine. So every single job is that associate's degree. All you have to do is pass basic training, pass tech training, and then you'll go to your on-the-job training for about your first year at your first duty station. Once you're done with all that, you just have to take a few gen ed courses, which you would have to do anyways for any degree, and you'll have your associate's degree. Now, like you said, with tuition assistance, the Air Force is going to push you to do some type of college or post high school education. So we have a lot of certificates that you can go for. The Air Force is going to pay for. So one of my friends, he's actually a maintenance. He works on the jets. He got his, I think it's an ANA or an A&E license. So it actually allows him to work on the civilian counterpart of the jets when he gets out of the Air Force. And it was all paid for by the Air Force. So if you don't want to go college, if that's just not your route, then you can use the other benefits that we have to pay for trade schools, certificates, whatever it is you might want to do when you are transitioning out of the Air Force, or preferably before you're transitioning out, because you don't want to wait till the last minute. You want to plan ahead. When it comes to how we do jobs and job processes, we are a little bit different than the Army. You know, they do let you kind of pick your job based on your qualification, based on what's available. When it comes to the Air Force, we give you a list of all the jobs that we have that are available, as well as a list of all the jobs that you qualify for. Then you provide me with 8 jobs that you want to do for the Air Force. You will 100% book one of those 8 jobs. We can't do just one guaranteed job unless you're trying for a super hard to fill job like special warfare, which would be like, you know, pararescue, combat controller, tactical air control party, special recon, EOD, and SEER. Or if you want to go something like linguist, just because those jobs are incredibly hard to fill. So if that's what you want, then that's what we'll let you do as long as you qualify for it. But besides that, if you want a job like security forces, then you have to provide me at least 8 jobs that you're interested in doing for the Air Force. Now, just like the Army, we have over 150 jobs. So anything you can think of, we have it in some way, shape, or form. An Air Force base is pretty much an airport built around a small town, or built in the middle of a small town. So any support functions when it comes to medical, we have those, communications, intelligence, security forces, fire, civil engineering type jobs. We have pretty much anything you can think of, maintenance for the aircrafts. We've got it in some way, shape, or form. So all we got to do is figure out what you're qualified for, what you're interested in, and then we can help kind of guide you towards what you might want to do for the Air Force. To go on
Hey,
that,
Michael, does the Air Force offer something that the Army doesn't have in the way of a job?
that I
Is
don't
there a
know.
job on it?
Yeah, I don't know their crew fields. So I would imagine we're all pretty similar in terms of what we actually offer. I do know the Air Force pushes really hard into cyber. That's primarily what we're looking for, cyber, and then people that are mechanically and electrically inclined. The electrical side goes into cyber. So if you want computers and technology, that's kind of what we focus on. Because the Air Force's mission as a whole is to control or to provide air power and airspace and cyberspace. The space function, we're still working out because of the Space Force. What are we actually doing in space compared to the Space Force? All that type of fun stuff. But we are looking for technical experts. So no matter what your job is in the Air Force, that's going to be your job, whether you're deployed, whether you're stationed overseas, whether you're stationed in the United States. That job is your job no matter what. Most jobs in the Air Force don't even stay qualified with firearms. They only get qualified in order to deploy. So my job, I was qualified annually, as well as all the other like random certs for carrying guns every single day. But one of my office partners, one of my coworkers, she worked, she was a Mandarin linguist. So the Air Force taught her Mandarin. She actually has never shot a gun outside basic training. She will never deploy to the Middle East, so she has no reason to ever shoot a gun unless she chooses to with her personal weapons. So that is, I guess, one of the big differences in jobs of the Air Force. Your job is your job no matter what. You're focused on that. We also do offer a buddy program. It is not as enticing as the Army. I'll be honest about that. Can't try to lie. Ours just promises that you will go to basic training with your buddy, but that's pretty much it. We have a cross-train program. So once you hit the last year of your first contract, you're guaranteed to be released from your crew field in order to cross-train into a different crew field, as long as you're qualified for that crew field. So say you get into security forces, you don't like it, and you want to go fire. You can always swap over to fire because they always have availability in that career field. Because a lot of people will get in and then get out once they get their training and go work civilian fire departments. We also have a lot of commissioning programs. So I know Sergeant Coney, he was talking about warrant officer and commissioning programs. Air Force is pretty similar. We are very big into pushing for nurses, physician's assistants, astronauts, and doctors. So if that's something you want to do and you don't know how you're going to pay for schooling to achieve that, just come in and talk with me. The Air Force has programs that they push every single year to try to get as many enlisted members to qualify for those as possible, because they would rather promote enlisted members than maybe some civilian kid who might not succeed in the military. Whereas if you're already enlisted, they know that you're probably going to succeed because you're already doing it.
Can I ask you, do you have any, I'm going to give you the same battery of questions that I gave David. So do you have any female recruiters?
We do actually. So currently,
and again, it's not mine. These are just people
Yeah.
who peppered me with questions as I go.
Yeah, so I'm actually sitting in the Carpentersville office right now. My main office is Antioch, but I was down here training a new recruiter today, and she happens to be female. As well as one of the recruiters out in Rockford. She is a linguist by trade, and she has been recruiting for about as long as I have, so about 2.5 years. It is more male dominated. A lot of military branches are going to be more male dominated, but we do have a lot of female recruiters. So if someone does come in and they would rather talk to a female to maybe get a female perspective, we will happily set up a Zoom call, FaceTime, phone call. Sometimes I can convince them to actually come to my office and have the appointment with me.
So how many are you recruiting a year?
So been recruiting for 2.5 years. This past year, 31. Year before that, about 35. I know like the 3 to 6 months before my actual first year started, I was looking at like 4 or 5. So
Does the Air Force see more coming in and less going out, or?
It's very hit or miss right now. In the first quarter of the year, which is where we are, we're about even, the same amount coming in and the same amount going out. The second quarter, so the winter months, they're going to be about the same amount coming in, same amount going out. It's really coming up on the end of the year. So the end of the fiscal year, so September 30th, that's where we start seeing things start to slow down. So the third quarter in the spring, we're focused primarily on high school students because we've been meeting with them throughout the year. We've been going to their high schools and we want to make sure they're taken care of. So we start to focus more on them. And then over the summer, it kind of is what we can do. We normally have a lot more coming in during the summer than we do have going out.
That's great. Life after, is
So
there a
life
life after in the Air Force? I know you talked about medical jobs, linguist jobs. I'm sure that goes off and above. Where do you see yourself going, as a career?
Yeah, I actually joined the Air Force because I wanted to stay in law enforcement for my entire career. After doing law enforcement for about 6 years, I determined it's just not something I see myself doing when I retire from the Air Force. I'm currently on contract through 10 years. I told my wife I'm just going to keep going until the Air Force kicks me out, because eventually they will. Whether that's 20 years, whether that's 30 years, it kind of is what it is at this point. I'm just going to keep working hard to get there. After the Air Force, I'm working on my bachelor's in psychology right now. So I'll graduate here in the spring. I'm going to start my master's in clinical psychology shortly after that. And then I want to actually figure out the licensing process to become a clinical therapist. whether that's go for my doctorates or whether that's just keep my master's and just get my state licensing. So I see myself being a therapist.
And is all that whole education's paid for by the Air Force?
Yes, I have zero debt from college, and I will continue to have zero debt going towards my master's. And then I'll be able to use my GI Bill for my doctorates if I have to go that route. Or we'll be able to transfer a GI Bill to my children if I decide I don't want to go that route with the doctorates.
That is great. I'm going to open up. I don't know if we have any questions out there. Scott and Rebecca, we did have some fellow Rotarians join me. Matt Tabor and Sue Ryan were part of the technical training committee with the Antioch Rotary. I failed to put that out there before when I introduced myself. But this is something we're passionate about, is giving kids choices outside the traditional four-year college track. And it sounds like you both offer fantastic opportunities for our students here in the Antioch community. So Matt and Sue, I don't know if you have anything. I see Brad Hubbard's on here too. If anybody has any questions for the gentleman.
I guess I'd just like to say on behalf of the Rotary Club, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your service. And we thought, based on the high school's input, that it would be a good opportunity sort of comparatively students are making this, and they're just into a whole scope of Rotary, so that students can come at any time. They come to the counselor's office and say, about the military, we can hook them up to this broadcast, and they can kind of see that, even if it's 6 months from now, a year from now, or whatever. So we appreciate your being here and give choices and opportunities for kids who are thinking about their futures.
Sue, you have anything?
I would just like to thank the two young gentlemen for giving us all this information that we can share with the students. We are trying to, I'm president of the scholarship, part of the Antioch Rotary Club, and we're really trying to reach out to the young adults that are looking for something other than the four-year college. It's not for everybody, and we want to help young people build their careers any way we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. I see Dr. Hubbard has a question on there. Are you able to get that, Scott? Or did you want me to ask it? Did you see that?
Yeah, I can certainly throw that one out to our gentleman. Question, folks, is you have done a great job talking about your experiences. Can you share about the experience of your family members? So what type of opportunities do you have to see family, celebrate holidays together, and stay connected to loved ones? So it starts with Felpowski or Coney.
Yeah, I'll kind of start with that. So for me, I love seeing my family. Love seeing my parents. I go out and see them at least once a year. We do get 30 days paid time off per year, normally capping out around 30 days, or excuse me, at 60 days. So I have spent a lot of time flying back and forth to see to Virginia to see my parents. Now they live out in Phoenix, so heading out there to see them. My wife, I haven't been married too long outside of recruiting. We've only been married pretty much since right before I became a recruiter. And she does not really have much communication with her Georgia family, so she doesn't really care to go see them too often. But she has had a few opportunities to go out and see her mother in Missouri. She's been accepted into my family just fine. I feel like I've never missed any major events or opportunities in my family's or my wife's part of her family. She has felt the same way. We currently don't have any children, so I can't talk on that aspect. So I would really appreciate Coney's help with that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm probably about to butcher your name, for Technical Sergeant Filipkowski. But his motion sensor. Yeah, no, so for us with the Army and the family aspect, So it does kind of vary a little bit based on the jobs, because when I'm at a strategic site, so like that windowless facility, where I'm actually supporting real missions, be it Air Force, Army, Navy. I've even supported embassies across the world as well. That's when it becomes a shift work. But, I know every 2 to 3 days, I get to spend 2 to 3 days off with my family, and, never really lose any of those days off, because, you have plenty of time to take care of everything you need for work at work. But yeah, same ordeal where it's like you have the 30 days of leave. I've been married ever since had completed my tech school. So my wife actually got to come out to Germany, to Texas, and to Maryland. And, one of the things that we've always loved to do is we love going to anime conventions. So, we are the cosplayers out there. I do Dante, she does Bayonetta. We've done others like Android 1718, but we've gone to conventions over in Germany, in Texas, Maryland, Minnesota, so it really gives you a lot of time having those 30 days. And then even when my son was born, initially I had just 14 days of paternity leave, because that was the policy, but they just changed the policy as well. So then, I got to recuperate the additional, because it's total of 42 days. So, they gave me the remainder of that time to be with them, to, help, take care of my son as soon as he was born. So, he's 2.5 now, still quite the handful. So yeah, no, good luck for the families. But one of the big things about the Army is, it really does allow you, if you're willing to do it, be a single income family, because that's been the way that I've always done it. And, my family has never had a want for anything. I've been able to provide the needs and a little bit of the extras as well. But, a lot of people, they want to also have that dual income. So a good thing about the military in general, every installation has AFES, which is Army, Air Force, Federal Exchange Services. And what they do is they will hire spouses, and they'll give preferential treatment to the spouses of military members. So, the good part about that means that, if you're moving from one base to another, your spouse can keep a job. So whether or not it's like working at the mall at one base, will guarantee that they will have a job at the next base at the mall. So, and even if they need to change like the occupation, because of the way that it works is they work off of like the general scale, and this is all Army civilians as well. They are guaranteed to keep that general scale pay as well. So, they're not going to lose out on any of that. Some of the harder programs to go with is like the tuition assistance for family members. I believe that's going completely through FAFSA. But I know I didn't really have to worry about trying to work through that. My wife actually already had her bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree in applied management skills 2 years ago. So, but it is there for the family members. They do have grants as well. But yeah, even if you see yourself like in a financial hardship, particularly with the Army, I'm not sure if the Air Force has the equivalent of, what's Army Emergency Relief Funds. So we call them, oh, okay, awesome. So yeah, same thing, where it's either a 0 interest loan or a grant. If you find yourself suddenly, say you need to repair your car and you don't have enough money to do it, you can get emergency relief to be able to help you with that. So, we really look out so that way your family can be there to support you, because it is difficult to move every 2 to 3 years, to reestablish new friendships. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of programs that could go into like family readiness groups as well that the units have, just so that way, so the family knows what's going on with the soldiers, even when they happen to deploy. So, that's a big thing about military is they understand the family has its own hardship, and they try to make it light for them too.
Scott and Rebecca, you have anything to add or question?
I don't think we have any questions, but first, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. This has been really helpful information for our students. The one thing that we just want to reinforce for our students is that both schools do give the ASVAB Lakes just gave it a couple of weeks ago. Antioch's planning on doing it next semester. And there are some just really small differences in when you take the ASVAB at the high school level to when you take it at the recruiting station. At the high school level, first, the ASVAB is an aptitude test that the military uses for job placement. It's appropriate for anybody to take the aptitude test to look at what careers are suited for them and what they're suited for. But when you take it at the high school, the student owns the score, owns the report, and they can send it to whatever branch they would like to send it to. We do bring in somebody from ASVAB to explain the results to the student. So that's very helpful. The other thing is that we have great partnerships with all of the branches, and recruiters are in the building and can answer questions face to face, and you can really form that relationship with students so that they make the decision that's best for them. And they really have all the information up front. They know really what they're signing up for, all the perks and all of the other opportunities to see the world and to experience things that they wouldn't experience at a traditional four-year school or going directly to the workforce.
Scott?
Thanks, John. Mrs. Holst was very eloquent there. Echo everything she said, of course. Also want to thank Sergeants Filipowski and Coney. We do have military representatives welcome in our high school buildings. We try to treat them just like we do representatives of any other career or post-secondary opportunity. So you can get a presentation from the University of Northern Illinois, or you can get a presentation from the folks within the Air Force, Army, Marines, et cetera. And so, certainly an awesome opportunity for our students to consider beyond high school. I think one thing that I really appreciate the gentleman sharing tonight is how service in the armed forces can be a career in and of itself with the right dedication and commitment, but also how, that service to our country can set you up for other career opportunities beyond that service as well. And so thank you to them. Also want to say thank you to you, John, and the rest of our Rotary Club of Antioch folks that help pull together these evenings. Really good opportunities, as Mrs. Hull said, for our students. Having these resources available is a wonderful service to our communities. And so thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, on a personal note, I want to thank you. It's been an honor to host you. I can't thank you enough for your service to our country. What more could we do for you? Like I said, it's an honor to sit here in front of you. I serve at a different level, at a local level. I have a personal relationship. My son-in-law was in the Army. I got a brother-in-law in the Navy. My deputy chief's son is in the Air Force currently. You touch our lives and you protect us, and I thank you for that. On behalf of the Antioch Rotary, I thank you from our committee for you taking the time out of your busy schedules to help us educate our students and get our word out and to help fulfill our mission in Rotary. You're part of it. It's service above self, and you guys speak to that louder than any one of us can. So thank you very much. On behalf of the Rotary District 117, the Lake County Technology Campus, thank you. And I wish you guys a safe career. If you're in Antioch and you need a cup of coffee, I'm at the fire station all the time, right across from Piggly Wiggly. So I'd welcome you to stop in and say hi.
I will take you up on that one. My
All
office
right,
is
perfect.
like 2 minutes away.
Okay, well, thank you all very much again, and have a safe holiday. Happy New Year, stay safe, healthy, and best wishes to you and everybody else who serves.
And
Have a great night.
On behalf of the United States Army, I wanted to say, thank you very much for having us here, because, I know oftentimes, and I can even just relate to myself, I probably would have made the decision to join the military service had I really had more of that information out there ahead of time, because it is a big decision, but I mean, it is such a launch pad into, future careers and just, excelling in anything that you want to put your mind to. So yeah, I really do think the opportunity to speak for the Army, as well as to, see your support for us. And thank you so much for that support.
Yeah, same here. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk. And I look forward to kind of meeting everyone as the school year kind of goes on and we can start getting back into some of these schools and actually seeing everyone face to face.
Okay, great. With that, have a good night, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
job, John.